Today, I chat with Paul the Body Byrne. Paul is one of the most famous fitness instructors in the world. His client list, it's a who's who, from Saoirse Ronan to Michael Fassbender to Hugh Jackman. Today, I try to deconstruct how Hollywood's A-listers stay in shape. What sessions do they do? How do they achieve and keep peak performance? And how do they balance training and prioritise it in their hectic Hollywood recording schedules? Not everybody's ready to hear this conversation, but if you are, get ready to go deep. It's Paul the Body Byrne. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Delighted to be here, Anthony.
How are you?
Really good, except for the shit weather outside. But
I was watching a video clip of Mr. Beast. He's the biggest YouTuber in the world. You might know who he is. If anyone's into YouTube, they'll definitely know who he is. And he was talking about when he was a kid, he had this dream of becoming the biggest YouTuber of all time. So him and all his friends used to meet up every single day. So they'd log on in the morning in Zoom or Discord or wherever the equivalent was then. And they would go through successful YouTube channels and they would critique them. They go, what's the story, the pacing of this video? Why did they use that title? Why did they use those colours in the thumbnail? And they would deconstruct it all day long to see if they could figure out what the ingredients were so they could build success themselves. So that's my humble goal for this podcast, is to deconstruct your incredibly amazing high performance life so other people can maybe replicate it. So I think it's a modest enough sort of goal we've set.
It's very flattering, actually, wouldn't it?
The concept, I think, is called river jumping. Have you heard this term?
I haven't, no.
River jumping is the idea of observing something in a different industry and taking the constituent parts of it and bringing them back to your industry. So, for example, for me with the podcasting, I could go to a Formula One race and, what can a podcaster learn at a Formula One race? Well, you go, the pit crew turned that around pretty fast. I wonder if we take some of those principles and we bring them back into our editing suite, can we do that? Yeah. So let's start off and ground a couple of terms. What does the term high performance even mean to you?
Being the best at it, being elite.
Is it all upside high performance?
High performance is you put a lot of work in, to be the high performance at top level, top of the game, A-lister, a professional, practically high performance athlete.
As a child, were you always that guy? Were you always high performance, you think, or was it at some point in your life you switched to it?
I don't play golf. There's certain things I don't do because I become obsessed with them and I want to be number one at them. And then things that I can't become number one, literally physically. And I could tell you some great stories actually when I was even trying the Ironman, and I couldn't become number one because I got my arse handed to me on the plate a few times. But I've always been a high achiever, wanting to be the best at it. So no matter what I did, I went 110% into it till I got excelled at it and kept doing it. And then when I felt no more, I went on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And now it's just age is catching up on me now, so things are slowing down a bit.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? Because I think high performers are often entrepreneurs or have some sort of entrepreneurial tendency. And there's something about that need to excel. Because when you're in something for a long, long time, you do hit a ceiling. And you get to a point, you probably experienced it in martial arts, in bodybuilding. If you're in something initially, you put in some work, you progress. You put in some work, you progress. But then maybe like you're experiencing Ironman, you put in work and you go, holy shit, there's a lot of layers to this onion. And I'm never getting to that inside layer because genetics play a role. Getting started in the sport at a very, very early age plays a role. So you maybe jump to something else where you get that growth faster. Has that been your experience with jumping around?
Yeah, again, I become obsessive with them. And like I say, any top cyclist, the hours, is the amount of hours they put into it. And that's what I put in. And anything from, if it's bodybuilding, if it's karate, if it's getting ready to climb a mountain, whatever it is, it takes hours and hours and a lot of time. You just have to put the hours into it as well. And even in business, like even with in personal training business as well, I've never been money motivated at it. I've just been wanting to be the best at it, wanting to be brilliant at it, wanting to just fill up the hours and getting people in amazing shape. And everything just came with that. It was easy to excel in that.
That's
field.
nearly a great business example there of how you build a successful business. If you start to try to optimize for money, I don't think that's a good spot. Anyone I know, and I'm privileged to know some friends who are really successful entrepreneurs, they never started to optimize for money. They were doing it because it was a passion. They were doing it to solve a problem. They were doing it to help people, and money was the byproduct of that.
Yeah. Well, again, like a cyclist, you know, if you want to be a pro cyclist and make a lot of money at cycling, you don't go, I'm going to work hard at this and make a lot of money. You go out and you love cycling, you've got to have a passion for it. And then if you're so good at it, it'll all start coming. An actor, a singer, just be passionate and then it all comes.
So what chronologically happened first for you? Was it martial arts or bodybuilding?
Martial arts. I was 10 years old. I was the skinniest, puniest little kid you ever seen in your life. Kind of practically bullied in school. I was so underdeveloped, actually. Do you know who always tells the story? Liam Cunningham is one of my longest clients as well.
Actor.
From Game of Thrones, Sir Davos. And he always tells the story because he remembers me. He said I was like a little pipe cleaner because we grew up 3 doors away from me. He's the same road. And but I was tiny, and I said, so I got into martial arts because, you know, in school I wanted to defend myself as well. And then got into my first competition. I got annihilated. My mother brought me to it. I actually got kicked out of the ring, and got on and got better at it. And then eventually at 16, I represented Ireland in Mexico. Then up to 17. Fought in a lot of countries around the world. I won Irish titles, and then on to Japan. Fought over there, the only wrestler to get through into the final stages of the event I fought in, which was the All Japan Championships at the time. And got up my third dan black belt, and then got injured with that. So then to the next thing was strength training, which I was doing while I was doing that as well. And of course, the obsession and the kind of drive I had, within a year I'm competing at that. So
it's this idea I have, and I've been trying to flesh it out. Maybe you can help me flesh this out. I think the peak performers, they recognize other peak performers, but more than recognizing other peak performers, I think there's something, I don't know if it's duplicitous, I'd say, but when I was trying to get into business building and entrepreneur, I sought out other entrepreneurs who were super successful. So I could go into a room of 50 people and I would naturally gravitate to the 2 or 3 most successful people in that room because I knew I had the most to learn from these people. But there's something almost devious about what high performers do, how they engineer that environment around them. We all know that kind of phrase of you are the average of the 5 or 3 people you spend most of your time with.
Yeah.
But I think peak performers are quite devious in engineering that environment to get people around them who are at their level or slightly above their level. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, 100%. Like any time, you'll always see champions play. They're always around each other. Like they'll always say, for example, you'll see movies at the awards there recently. You see all the top Irish actors flocking together.
Yeah,
they go together. If it was business awards, you see top businessmen flocking together. It's just a natural thing. It does happen. And I always found as well, I'd always be flocking. So from bodybuilding, I ended up being great friends with top lads from around the world. I'd go on holidays with Dorian Yates, 6 times Mr. Olympia winner. Just being friends, Flex Lewis, who had won the Mr. Olympia as well, flew over to my house and stayed on Christmas. And, you know, so you'd flock once you're excelling in a field. You would get that.
But do you think then the filter that you're using to judge friendships through becomes high performance? And that you have friends that maybe, you know, they're great guys. I have friends from my childhood. They're great lads. And someone will say to me, my mom or dad will say to me, oh, you know, you totally lost touch with, but that's on me. And there is times where I do regret it, but they hadn't got that same high performance mindset as me. And I don't want to say I culled them out of my life, but I made no effort to maintain those friendships, and I gravitated towards ones that were more, you know, quote unquote, useful for me.
But you gravitate with people that are on the same page as you. So, like, say, people that are into cycling, people that are into developing business, they're on the same page. Whereas previous friends might be, oh, I love playing with paper airplanes, and you're no interest in that.
Just playing with matches. So always had that lad in school, didn't we?
So you'd always you just kind of exit. But you have different circles of friends as well. You know, I always put them in different boxes. What I would just people just clients that are friends of mine. You know, I have friends from Olds as well. Then there's friends from bodybuilding, I have friends from karate. Yeah. So different things. I have a lot of friends from even the Ironman. So even with professional Ironman, I've become friends with. You know, but they're different boxes all the time. You know,
because it's the easiest way to excel, isn't it? Because if you're in a group and you're the outlier in that group, you referenced you're trying to do Ironman. If you're in a group of lads and they drink every weekend, and you're the outlier, and the comments are, oh my God, I can't believe you're going out doing a 3-hour bike ride on the weekend, or you ran how many miles at the weekend?
Yeah.
If you're the outlier in that group, it's very hard to excel. You need to get into a group and surround yourself with people that normalizes that behavior and say, you only ran 90 minutes?
Yeah. Well, it's simple. Like, I remember actually back in bodybuilding, I remember I was training in a gym, and I was in great shape in the gym back then. I was walking around like I was king of the castle. But I knew I was
like Conor McGregor.
Yeah, so you have people like that, you'd see them in gyms walking around, great shape, and their throwing shapes, whatever. But you go to a gym, like when I went over training in LA in Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, and you're going, the difference, like you're walking around with all these guys. And then, so I moved gyms, I train with guys that are all champions. And then you're just learning everything from them and champions, and you're just going on to that level. Like from the guys I palled around with, from Mr. Britain, Mr. Italy, Mr. France, they're all still friends of mine to this day. And, you know, we'd meet, well, not as big now, obviously, but we'd meet and we'd have a couple of beers, you know. Actually, they were funny, when I was over in Brazil, I was judging the World Bodybuilding Championships, and I was training for an Ironman. So when all these big lads that knew me, and I said, oh, he's Paul Byrne, he's won a lot of, he's this, he's that. And I coming out with my headset on, going for a 20k run. I was remembering this guy, what in the name of God are you doing? Yeah, so it's you know yourself, like when you're in the field, you kind of lie down with that.
Did you feel fitter when you were training for Ironman or when you were bodybuilding?
Fitter with Ironman, but I got more injuries with Ironman as well. And I got fatter, believe it or not, training for Ironman.
It's a problem. Yeah. It's a problem. If you look even anecdotally at triathletes, cyclists, for a group of people that burn through that many kilojoules a week, there's a problem with
metabolic slowing down, muscle burning, and body fat storing it up. Back to the caveman days, it stores the fat.
Yeah.
Because we want that. That's the emergency stores, but we use this muscle.
It's also, if you think about how we store fat, it's actually genius, isn't it?
Yeah.
We store fat, like, we don't store it on like our right ear. Yeah, so when we're walking, we're just kind of tipping over. It's stored brilliantly in that center of gravity right around our hips. So if you're trying to carry a load up a hill, where would you carry it? Like a bum bag, a fanny pack. Probably the easiest place to carry it. We use hydration packs now on some of the ultra adventure cycling races. Mm-hmm. And one of the best hydration packs you can actually use just straps around your waist, and you carry 3-4 litres of water around your waist.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if actually stored around the biceps or something? You know, beer biceps instead of a beer belly or something. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
There's a few people sort of storing it in their lips and in strange places.
Lately I noticed that,
Ironman is a difficult thing to transition into, I would say, from bodybuilding. Well, I don't know if it's difficult, but they're different communities. Did you find one more welcoming than the other?
Oh, I can tell you stories. Yeah, actually, they're both the same to crack into. I found them both took time, like a couple of years to crack into, like this. And the bodybuilding as well, guys can be very intimidating. I'd say actually it's worse now than it was back then when I was competing. They were more welcoming in bodybuilding back then, but now there's so many egos and so many, like, just like throw a stone, you hit a bodybuilder now. You know, and they're doing videoing themselves for social media. And the same possibly with Ironman now as well. But there was a lot of guys, when I went out on big spins, training cycles with them as well, it was great. They'd be very helpful and but I found it took time as well. I think it's more to know you're serious about what you're seriously into this as well. Like when we first time, but there's funny times like when I did my first triathlon and sprint when I had no training for it. I was obviously big. I was a terrible swimmer anyway.
Muscle doesn't swim well.
So I hated water. And it was the triathlon actually. It was the very first one I said I'd do. And I got in on the swim and I was kind of going under. I was kind of just trying to stay afloat, and it was in a river, and he said, like, waiting for the horn. And I kind of, will you ever blow it? Because I can't tread this water any longer. So they took off, and I actually figured out that it would be easier and quicker if I just drink the Shannon River and walk along the bottom. I'd be guarded, but I was last out. And, you know, like the head in the water, and then the next group are in, and they passed me. And it's only a sprint triathlon. And like I was nearly pulling the swim hat over my face when I got out of the water, but I got the biggest applause. But it made me, I knew I'd be strong on the bike, and then the run was okay. It was just okay, but I hadn't done any running at all like that as well. But it made me very competitive I'm going to give this a good crack. And I got swimming lessons, Carol Walsh in Clontarf. 2-1 actually, that I'm so badly short-sighted that I was actually winning the sea or the swim in an Ironman in Galway. I was winning it. The weather was bad, but it was heavy waves, so it suited me for swimming great. And I was coming in and I couldn't see any swimmers around me, so I panicked. I went on the wrong way and I'm waiting for someone to catch up on me. So,
peak performance is funny because you were talking about peak performers can spot other peak performers, but I think peak performers can also see bullshit. Like you're talking about in triathlon or you're talking about bodybuilding. Like I think your term, what you say, you throw a stone, you hit a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But as a bodybuilder with your credentials, can you walk into these places and go, he's a spoofer, he's the real deal?
100%. Yeah, well, one thing you're looking at, some guys are gifted genetics. They're just blessed with genetics. Same with cycling. They look at a weight and they pop everywhere. And then if some guys, they're talking about, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing, like some people are saying they're 3 and 4 hours training in the gym. Like, you couldn't possibly train 3 or 4 hours. You know, like even the top level lads, like 6 times, 7 time Olympia winners, you know, they do 4 to 5 hours a week in the gym. But the rest is 24-hour nutrition. And that's what it is. And then again, you have the drugs end of it as well. Like, so I have a lot of guys going, oh, I'm so clean. And I can see like they're up to their eyes, you know, as well. And they're on social media and they're, you know, they're walking around like single, like 4% body fat, 14, 15 stone. Like, and you can't do that naturally. You can't, you know.
Do you know who Jared Redmond is?
Jared Redmond?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Jared Redmond's a professional triathlete from Ireland now, but I had Jared on the podcast. I train with him occasionally as well. Lovely lad. His story's really interesting. Jared he came from a really difficult background. He lived in Darndale. And for anyone internationally listening, really working class area in Dublin. And there's only 2 ways out of Darndale, as he explained it to me. He said, you excel in sport or you go to the gangland route. And he excelled in sport. He went and he signed for Dunfermline, broke into the Dunfermline team very early, and got a call to say his dad had been arrested and sent to prison, that he had to come home. And he came home to horrific circumstances. His mom not in a good place, a lot of reprisal attacks on the family home. So Ger had to step up and be the kind of man of the house. So he had to leave Dunfermline and come back home. So talking about reverse engineering success, he took the application that he put into sport and he said, I'm going to put this same dedication into gangland. And he rose all the way up the ranks in gangland. And, you know, he got out of it eventually, and I won't bore you with the rest of the story, but a quote that is brilliant. The way peak performers can see that bullshit in other peak performers. Like I'm in Girona there last week, and it's flooded with cyclists. But straight away I have that radar, and it's like, he's a pretender, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And Jer had a great expression for it. He said, Ireland's like this at the moment. He said, everyone wants to be a gangster. And he said, everyone's walking around like they're a gangster and they're doing all the gangster stuff. And then his expression was, everyone wants to be a gangster until it's time to be a gangster.
Yeah.
And I just thought, how rock and roll is that expression? Not everyone gets to say that.
Like Mike Tyson, remember his one? Everybody has a plan till you get a punch in the face.
Yeah, very, very true, isn't it? Has the pursuit of peak performance, trying to get to the top in martial arts, trying to get to the top in business, trying to get to the top in bodybuilding, has that affected personal relationships for you?
No, not really. I have a great wife, and like she's in the business with me as well. And like even though we work together there all day, she's more business side of it for me. It's just great. So it helps me do on anything I've done. So that was always great, you know. So the relationships with that, but it has affected other relationships. With, like you said, with your own friends, you change your friends. Your friends change over the years as you change. You get different kind of pots that your friendship is in, you know. So that does change, you know.
Do you find it lonely at all?
No. Yeah.
It's interesting that sometimes the mechanisms and the processes that make high performers, like that make the best athletes, these systems that tell us we need to be, 24 hours strict on our diet, they're also the very same systems that can leave us very isolated as well, because I don't think everyone's cut out for it.
Bodybuilding would be definitely, bodybuilding is a different animal altogether. Like that's the most selfish sport in the world, I think, because like I said, that is 24-hour nutrition, carrying food around and permanently in a bad mood because you're depriving your body, trying to strip the body fat so low. That would be like, but anything else like business wise and things like that, it's been like, again, it's just wanting to be the best. I want to be even with my new gym at the moment, like I've ordered a lot of new equipment already, and I've only got new equipment like 2 years ago. But there's later stuff out there, and I'm getting a lot of new techno gym stuff ordered, and they're going, "But you only?" And I said, "Do you see that? I want that. It's so bad. It looks, just get it, And I've ordered it in, but it's still, once I still have that passion and I'm still into it. You know, it's like my gym is like my bike. Like I'm still passionate about it. Oh, look at that! Look at this! I want this. You know. And when I got into as well into the Ironman, it's amazing how you learn so much from my first bike to going through. You learn every bearing of it, what it is, what was good. You know, I was still terrible at it, but I thought I was good. I was good for the average guy on a bike. But God, I went out with a very funny story. There was two stories. One, myself and Keith Duffy, we had all the gear. We're out in Clontarf. And we had Santini gear head to toes. They sponsored us, you know, because we were doing the Galway Triathlon Ironman.
Full Tour de France look about
I think we had more stuff than the Tour de France. The bikes were Tour de France quality, you know, so we had them and we were going along, and we're booting along on Clontarf on the track. Some guy cycled by, I kid you not, on some hyper junk bike with blocks of timber sellotaped onto a carrier on the back and past the two of us. And the two of us kind of straight away, as you do, got up off the saddle and went for it. Couldn't catch him.
It was probably me.
It was a big Polish guy. He was like, we couldn't catch him. And then I remember another time when I was away on an Ironman training camp, I went away to Portugal. And so we went out for a big spin on the bikes. And I'm never really great in packs. I always like being on my own. I always like to be the front. So that's why I'd be bad at cycle racing. Yeah. But so I broke away from the pack and I'm up the front. And one of the lads, one of the champion guys, was laughing and said, "Oh, you're 70 kilometres, you're still at the front." And I'm a good distance away. Then I see Sergio Diaz. He was the world champion at the time, out for a spin. He was actually just popped in with us. And he was about, I'd say, like half a kilometre ahead. So I bite in the bars. I'm down on them and I'm going, I'm getting in front of him, he's the world champion. The sweat is running down my nose like a tap dripping off it. I come up onto his wheel, I'd say tipping 45, 50, and it's pounding. It was a slight incline, sweat pumping, grinding, and I'm actually going to pass him. And as I'm passing him, he's leaning on his handlebars, scrolling through his text messages, looking at me going, "Hey, Paul." And that was when I actually went back into the pack and sat there like a good little boy in cycling.
It's been the same with everything, isn't it? I think the power meter actually in cycling, Ironman, it's been a great equaliser.
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Because, you know, people go, because you've seen this for time and time. Someone will come from, you know, bodybuilding, CrossFit, rugby, into a sport like cycling, running, and they'll think, you know, I'm just as good as these lads. Yeah. I can hurt all day. No one can suffer more than me. They've these mantras that they've taught themselves. But, you know, you can't out-psych, you can't out-David Goggins, someone who's put in a decade of work to achieve this, you know, amazing metabolic conditioning where they can ride at 300 watts in zone 2. And you're like, well, I can only do 300 watts for 10 minutes. It's like you can't willpower your way out of that situation. So it is quite funny to watch these high performers coming into cycling.
He was actually just scrolling his text messages, just looking at me waving and like tipping away the power, the speed. And I'm kind of, there was nothing left of me. Like, that's it.
But there's so many layers to the onion, not like for the cycling, whether it's triathlon, bodybuilding. Like the person that I'll go, I'm a member of the local gym, and I'll go down there, and the person I see as, oh my God, this lad must live and breathe bodybuilding. You look at him and go, novice, just starting out in the game.
Yeah. It's I judged all over the world. I've judged the universe. I've judged like most countries in the world I've flown off to judge. I'm off to actually Vegas this year to judge. Still judge it. But so you'd see it even on stage and they walk out at the highest level. And the amount of people that would come to me, and these guys look great to the untrained eye. And he'd say, "What do you think?" We'd have a look at them and these great abs and great. I'm going, I'd pull out of it with you. You won't even get top 10. You're wasting your time. But when mates say that and they go up there because the level is so high now as well. The bar is a lot. It's very high now. It is, you know.
What's the character qualities of, if you were to, you know, project it across all the tournaments you've judged? What's the commonalities with the winners, the high performers?
The ones that actually, one thing is their nutrition. Like their nutrition has to be spot on. The way they go right down to get their macros spot on, perfect as well. Because when you're into that level, going in, it's then how you dry out on the day to bring in basically you're manipulating water as well with vitamin C and putting the skin like cling film. So a lot of guys get that wrong, and you could be just a layer of water, you're gone. You're gone from first place to probably not even placing.
Talk to me about that. What does that, like, I know boxers cut weight, coming up to the weigh-in, kind of manipulating water levels as well. What's the process for doing it for?
Well, similar for boxers, because Barry McGuigan would be a good friend of mine as well. And years ago, I was working with Shane, his son, was boxing, and I was explaining to Barry about how we used to dry out, which taking water, but your body's 70% water. So the weight would drop. And I said, I don't know why boxers put sweatsuits on and doing all this real old-fashioned hard way. I said, you manipulate, cut your carbs, get the weight in, then carb load like bodybuilding. So the body soaks it up. So what we do for a contest, 7 days out. So I would cut the carbs back, start dropping them down.
Because carbs hold water.
Carbs hold water in the muscle. So now the clean carbs, I'm not talking like say potatoes, let's say, for example. We were up to probably 400 or 500 grams of carbs. You're cycling up, down. Then when you're bringing, say, 400, you're going down to 200, down to 100. Then you're about 50 grams, and you wouldn't really go below that.
Okay.
And you'd hold that for about 4 days.
Okay.
And then in the last, that's when you're decarbing, you're dropping it down. Then for the last 3 days, you carb load. And I mean, you'd probably go, just to put it in simple terms instead of grams, you're probably going 10 baked potatoes,
okay,
15 baked potatoes, and up to 20 days. And then you cut your carbs back at about 8 o'clock the night before the contest. So basically, your body is soaking all the carbs into the muscle because it had to be restricted. So that's what happens to people when they rebound. If they cut their calories too low, then they eat. You ever see someone that eat a pizza and they go, I'm about to put on 3 kilos. The pizza didn't weigh 3 kilos. So that's what they've been starving all week, and they've put it, the body just soaks it up. That's basically like a sponge. So you'd cut the carbs, only have protein, dry protein turkey as well. You'd have your water, you'd be going up from 2 litres, 4 litres, 6 litres, 8 litres, up to 10 litres. And you do the same with vitamin C. And you go up to a gram, 2 grams, 3 grams.
What's the thinking behind the vitamin C?
Vitamin C is a diuretic effect. So it gets the water. So now at this stage, when you're up to 10 litres of water, you're just constantly going to the toilet, and you're also carrying water around you all the time. So you'd be drinking Evian water as well.
You must feel like shit, do you? Because that's messing with your electrolyte balance so much.
Totally. Well, you're going totally, but don't forget you're putting water in. To get 10 litres or 12 litres in.
But are you putting straight in water, or are you putting in salts with the water?
No, just water. So it's not like hydrating for a cycle. This is literally just getting into the muscle, getting the muscle full. Now, you'd literally see the difference from, let's say, Tuesday. By Friday, the veins would be pumping out of your skin if you carb correctly. Now, if you got that process wrong, you're off, and you're going to just, that's again the difference in first place and last place.
How's that evolved since you started in the bodybuilding game?
That's still going as well. That's still there.
That's still the gold standard.
That's very bog standard as well. Some guys do sodium loading and sodium depleting, but I always found it's very hard to get it spot on, so some guys did that as well. And then unfortunately, a lot of guys using diuretics now as well, which is very dangerous, like aldactone or aldactoid. And that can pull water out of the muscle as well. And then with the rebound off that, it's very dangerous. So they'd be like literally, do you ever get off a long flight, and your ankles blow up? So that's what they'd happen. And you can multiply that by 4 or 5,
So that you're talking in terms of behavioural stuff, diet seems to be the one of the connecting components. Is there a mental connecting component these lads have? Yeah, you have to. Well, the diet is the hardest thing. So the mental approach to that is 24/7. You really have to, because you're craving everything. It's not like, it's a discipline? Total discipline. But again, it's do you want to win, or do you want to? So guys would kind of break and they go, I'll just have that odd biscuit, or I'll just have that. I'm just going to have a beer. 1 beer won't kill me. I'm just going to have that. Yeah. And that's the difference. At that level, you won't get away with it. Because I've seen with cycling, triathlon, other endurance sports that I have friends excelling in, the lads that excel, how do I put it nicely, they're not the most well-balanced lads in the rest of their life. It's almost like some of them don't have a lot going on. It's like you have a switch and it's like, cycle hard. Yes, cycle hard. It's like they're a robot for the time they're in this. When they get out of the sport, they become balanced and they have other diverse interests. But they're so tunnel visioned on one thing. They're actually not that great of a person. They're just like a genetically engineered endurance athletes. Do you find that with these lads as well? Yeah. Oh yeah, no personality when contest diet, and you can ask any competitive bodybuilder about a contest diet, they'll actually just say it's hell. And if they're going, I find it okay, you've never placed. So it's the amount of marriages have broke up, the amount of people have lost their jobs, the amount of things backstage, and this is at amateur level. They went for it and sacrificed everything, trying to get it. And that's when you see the ones then that go international, to go onto it as well. When I came out of retirement, I did a Mr. Universe when I was 49. I stopped competing in 2006.
in bodybuilding. And then they brought a new class in, it's called the men's physique, where you see them with board shorts.
Yeah.
I said, I'll enter that for the crack. So I was training, and I was actually training for the try a toy, and I got, fast forward from then, I got in the top 10 in it, actually, in my age group. So I just said I'll do a sprint to try a toy. I hadn't done one. So I was doing that, and then I decided to enter the universe, and I got into the top 6.
That's kind of like deciding to do the marathon and the 100 metres in the Olympics there, the same Olympics.
Yeah. So that's what, so I just did it. So the men's physique, I was in shape, like, so there, the abs are there. And I was always training. I said, well, I don't need striated glutes. I don't need total separation of the legs with the shorts. I just need a good 6-pack and good upper body. I got in, I got a 4th place in the universe. So that's to compete in the universe, you have to win at national level. But I've already won years ago at national level, so I got 5 Mr. Irelands. And so I entered it and I got 4th. But I had a beard the night before and everything, so I wrecked everybody's head. But I had no pressure on it, you know.
Yeah, and that's a nicer way to do it in a lot of ways, isn't it? Because you're talking about the lads who marriage is falling apart. Like, if you're giving advice now to a young bodybuilder coming in, or, this equally applies to martial arts, to the finance sector, to anything. If you're looking at those people that are super successful, but in the process of becoming super successful, if the collateral damage is friendships, relationships, like, can we still call that success?
Exactly. But what I always found, a lot of these guys doing contests and martial arts contests, and you probably see it in cycling competitions as well, they put so much into this event. The whole life evolves around that event.
Yeah.
And then when it stops, and especially when they don't get the result they want, it's back to normality. It stops. There's nothing to go for, but I've nothing left. Everything is gone. They've lost everything. And
have you seen the Michael Phelps documentary, the one he narrates about the Olympians?
Oh, I haven't. I must see that. I must watch that.
It's interesting. It's not his documentary. He just narrates it. But I don't know the statistic off the top of my hand, but it's like something like 7 out of 10 Olympians experience chronic depression in the weeks after the games.
100%. I'd get that.
Massive suicide rates as well.
Yeah, because everything's about that, and then it stopped. It's nothing.
I had David Gillick sitting right there, Irish.
Lovely guy,
400 metre, European
guy.
champion. And David Gillick tried to go to one more Olympics.
Injured his calf.
Yeah, done his calf. Or his calf or Achilles, I can't remember, one of them. But he was in Australia when he done it, and he went to bed that night as a 400 metre prospect for the Olympics. He was on the side of buses and bus stops all around Ireland. He woke up the next morning. He called his missus that night and said, I'm done. I'm not going to make it back with this injury. He woke up the next morning and he's like, looked in the mirror and he's like, I'm nothing. I'm nobody.
Yeah.
I'm not a runner. And I've nothing else. The only thing I had was I was a good runner. Now I've got nothing. And he went through a dark time.
I remember I met him straight after that, and he came in. Derry, you know Derry McPhee there? You know Derry?
Of him. He mentors a lot of swimmers, doesn't he? Are involved in
he's an agent now. He is a big cyclist. He was... he cycled big time, He was a very good cyclist. When I met Derry first, he was a cyclist, but he's the agent. He was agent for David and Rob Heffron and a lot of people like that now. So, and Nicholas Roach as well.
Yeah.
He's the agent. Derry looked after him. He brought David into me then, and I was talking about that actually as well. But that's the way I've seen that with so many athletes as well. And that's just so much coming, like ones I've even worked with. When they don't get the, like I've trained Melanie Knocker, trained like Rob Heffron. We've had Gillick was in. Like I've done all these for the Olympics, a lot of them. Deirdre Ryan, at the London Olympics, And I remember actually Ronnie Delaney. I shout out to him. Who his dad is the actual famous gold medalist in the Olympics, right? So he came in. So he came in, and he's saying the man. It was Melanie Knocker was talking. He said all the English had iPads and all. Ronnie went out and bought the whole lot of them that were in their iPads because they had all the logos on and everything. And of course, Ireland were lucky to get a tracksuit, like that.
How do you think we optimize for both, or is it possible? Can we optimize to be a top performer and to be a balanced person, or are they mutually exclusive?
I personally think it's exclusive. It's mutual. It's exclusive. You're either one or the other. You need a very considerate people around you that are going to be there for you when it stops. So it's with professional footballers now, when like they're, it's like the Bros documentary when the screaming stops.
Yeah.
It does stop. And I've seen that so many times as well with athletes, but especially with bodybuilders. Like their life. And again, I remember I used to walk around. Everywhere I walked, people would look at me going, "Oh my God, So there wasn't as many bodybuilders back then.
Yeah.
But I'd be on holidays and I'd walk along the pool and there'd be a waitress serving me, looking at my arms going, and everywhere I walked into, I remember I was going out with a girl and I said, I won't go into the bar with you for have a drink for your birthday. I just have a t-shirt on, I'll have to get a coat. She said, why? I said, people be walking up looking at the arms. My arms were 19 and a half inches at the time.
Were you self-conscious about it?
Yeah, because people would come up and start squeezing them and going, oh no, start that, or say things. But then when I stopped bodybuilding, especially when I was trying for the Ironman going down as well, no one noticed me. When I stopped taking them obsessive calories, I used to be at the 4,000, 5,000 calories a day. That was now I'm well below that, So obviously the size shrunk. And then nobody looks at you. And you're kind of going, something wrong with me?
But you think about those eyes on you and I must feel, you're self-conscious, yeah, but they're also, it must feel pretty good at times as well.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. It's your product.
Yeah.
So you're walking around with it, so you're conscious of it. But like I said, that was going into a bar, kind of a disco bar.
Yeah, yeah.
And you could have someone,
drunk lads trying to pick a fire or whatever.
And then it could be awkward, But you would always get attention, and you'd kind of So it's like you got a new bike. Everybody's looking at your bike and going, wow. But imagine then nobody wants to see your bike anymore.
Yeah.
And you're walking around with it.
But now we amplify that with this social media generation, and they put up a picture and they're getting hundreds of thousands of likes on this picture, and then that stops.
I'm glad about what you said with that, because I see some of the pictures and I'm going looking at some of them because there's so much work gone into the pictures.
Yeah, more work gone into the picture than the gym for them.
Exactly. And I'm going, there's no way they look like that, because if they're that level in the gym walking like that, that's high level international competitive bodybuilder standard that walk around in the gym. And I've seen them then and they're nowhere near it. But that's like wearing high heels to be tall.
Yeah.
You you have to take them off, and then suddenly they're on social media being, I'm 6'2". You meet them in the flesh, they're only 4'9". That's what it is. That's what it's like,
But the psychological impact of that, we're not designed to get that much attention. I think we're still operating a pretty primal software in our bodies.
Yeah.
We're cavemen. We're not that far evolved from it.
Yeah.
A few people ago, we were fighting each other in trenches, trying to kill each other. And now we're this evolved species. And we've seen how fast during COVID that whole civilization thing could start to unravel really, really fast. And you have lads who are getting, and girls, more so I see it with girls, like a girl puts up a picture, sticks up a picture of her ass and she's getting 100,000 likes. That level of attention is not normal. I don't think we're equipped to deal with that much dopamine.
You know what's worse? Like you said, the girl that gets the 100,000 likes, it's taking a picture of her arse. Or then an astronaut woman can actually put a picture of her saying, I'm just going into this space station here, and she probably gets 50 likes. Or an athlete.
Do you know what thing is? Picture your ass into the space station.
Yeah, that'd be the
5 million likes.
But then you have top athletes, girls, they wouldn't get close to it. Here I am, and video themselves doing some ridiculous session, like an amazing run or something like that, and they don't get nowhere near the attention. But that's how bad I feel society's gone, because it's looking for being validated from elsewhere instead of self-validation.
Yeah. But I worry as well in the same way that when the music stopped for David Gillick, he went into a dark place. And David's a secure lad. If you meet David in person, you've met him, he's a dominant figure. He stands the same height as me, but I felt like he's 4 inches taller than me.
Yeah, and a good-looking guy.
Good-looking guy, a charismatic guy, just a big man, big hands. And, and for him to suffer with that withdrawal effects, a man as secure as him, I wonder the people that crave these likes. I'm generalizing just because it's easy to do, but it's the sort of person that craves those likes and craves those attention in a social media context. I don't feel they're as secure as David Gillick. And when the music stops for them, when they're not getting 100,000 likes, the mental health effect of that, I think, is going to be multiple times worse than it was for David.
Actually, I just seen on the news, New York State are suing TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
New York's mental, though.
But they're suing them because of the mental health for teenagers from social media. They're actually starting to take a civil case against them.
Like failure to protect or something, is it? Or
yeah, because that's causing damage to teenagers, their mental health. So
yeah, it's a funny one though, isn't it? Because it's like, there is a role of parents in that stuff as well. Your parents growing up would not let you, you're not going hanging out with Whacker. He's lighting sheds on fire. But
they're seeing a different world. They're seeing, when we were growing up, let's say, you wouldn't see that. Let's say you're out cycling. You don't look at how far apart you are. So you could try.
Yeah.
But now they're looking at it. Like I said, the guy on social media, it could be in America or whatever, with ridiculous shape. And I'm going to say, you're never going to look like that. And then if they're, like so much falseness on social media. There's so much they're putting all the best life. And then it's not real. That's the problem,
Yeah, we've got a lot of that going on. And I wonder nearly, does it start with a goal? Does it start with why we're driven to that goal? If we're driven to a goal for, like, you'll pick a goal like you want to win Mr. Universe as an age group, or you want to win something like that, and you have that goal and you're internally driven to go for that. You meet a fella on the streets, like, you've no chance of winning that. You don't care what he says because you're internally driven. I wonder, have we moved more to looking for external validation than that internal drive?
Yeah, that's up to play. Yeah, they do. They put stuff up and they want to see it. Like, how am I looking? So, and then, I only got 20 likes for that picture. I must look terrible. So if somebody gives 100,000 likes, I must be brilliant. I must be top level.
It's a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It is a weird.
Yeah, it's dopamine hit. It's a simple thing. You get likes, they get dopamine hit.
I think a lot of people are hard workers in life. Pivoting slightly, I think about what success is and how people achieve success. And, I got to a decent level at cycling. I played football to a decent level. And what really annoyed me for time was well-meaning compliments from friends where they go, "Oh, you're so talented." I hated that. I hated that more than anything else. And I hated that because in that one sentence, they were able to dismiss all my hard work. They were able to dismiss all those early mornings, that consistency, with just saying, "No, you drew a better genetic hand than I drew." And I was like, that's bullshit. I worked harder than you did. We had roughly the same genetic hand. I had a worse genetic hand than anything else. Have you experienced that? What do you think about talents versus...
Yeah, like in bodybuilding, I never had great genetics. In karate, I was, like I told you, I was a puny little kid. And I excelled up to that because I just wanted to win. I wanted to be the best. Just want to be the best. And I was always like that. But everything I felt, like I said, I get very addicted to it. Like I still train like crazy at the moment. I love my training. I really do. Like, I was on holidays in Thailand for 3 weeks, and every morning I was in the gym 6 a.m. every morning, and everybody's gone. And I work in a gym for a living, and they're going, "You're not saying, but I want it. I just need it. I can't sit there, driven." Because again, from the background, from whether it was karate, I trained twice a day, just a lot of days a week, from the bodybuilding to training as well. Then getting into the Ironman, then getting up climbing different mountains as well, like doing the stuff like as well. It was like different training, but it was all something, the goal set. Again, like we're just talking about David and all the other lads when they stop. So when I stopped karate, I had to fill the void.
Yeah.
So then bodybuilding, and then I was in gym and strength training and going for it. And then that went on for years then as well. And then when that stopped, I need something else. And then I'm into a triathlon, and then wanting to go more and wanted to go to the Ironman level. And then eventually looking at it and realising I'm not that good at this, Do
you know what you seem very good at is, you're a hard worker. And there's a lot of people out there, I think, that are hard workers that don't achieve your talent. I think you're very good at realising what you're optimising for. You're realising what success looks like, what that finish line looks like. And now you're able to calibrate that hard work so it's all going in one direction towards a single goal. I think a lot of people have vaguer goals like, I want to be happier, or I want to have a better life, or I want to be stronger. And then they don't end up channeling the hard work in a single direction. They're not sure what they're optimising for.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough with all the competitive sports that I was doing. I was able to channel every one of them, always channeled around my business as well. So I worked in an industry that they always lent to it.
Yeah.
So even when I was doing the Ironman, I got Matt Cooper into it, Ray Darcy into it, Grania Shaw, Sheila Shaw, Catherine Thomas, Keith Barry, Keith Duffy. So I brought all these celebrities to it. So I put 2 celebrity teams into Ironman Galway, which was great, and everybody wanted it. But it brought a bit of glamour. But they just happened to be training in my gym. Now, doesn't mean I only trained celebrities. It's just because the place was private and we had a lot more of that. But again, they all put all the work in, I actually always remember Rosanna Davison getting stick.
She's my class in college.
Was she? Yeah, but she got a lot of...
I used to say to lads, people say, "What are the girls like in your class?" I said, literally the best looking girl in the entire world is in my class.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I was at her wedding actually. But she ran, I think, the women's mini marathon for Linda Keaton, So, and she was pushing to go to Lou, ran into a house just before we had done Galway Ironman, and she went in and she went back out, and then they said, she just joined the thing and then ran across the finish line after 2 kilometres. Now she looked amazing, like makeup perfect, but I've ran out 20 kilometres with her, and we were doing them in 1:45. Like there, so she banged out 1:40, I think 1:42 in the Ironman Galway was her time in the run.
It's decent running.
Decent running, like a gazelle she ran. And her makeup, everything, I kid you not, perfect across the finish line. After you see the pictures, they're on my Instagram somewhere, but you see the whole, like she's immaculate. Like she passed it.
I used to race with lads like that, and it would be pouring rain for the day, and they'd be wearing a white kit or something. And I'd finish the race and I'm covered head to toe in muck, and you'd see them and it's like, did you dodge every puddle for a 200 kilometre race? Like, there's no muck on you. How is this possible? Some people just have style that defies weather constraints.
Yeah.
How did you get into the sort of, I think you've carved out quite a good niche in business, and I definitely want to explore those parallels between your performance and your goal setting, because I think you were always optimizing for something when you were an athlete. And I don't think it's an accident you've excelled in business and you're coaching all these celebs. I think you quite strategically optimized for that.
Yeah, there's a funny story. A guy that brought me into the gym for the first time, he always says this in World Gym. He's a good friend of mine, but he always says the story. He said he brought me in, he was showing me exercises. And he said a few weeks later, I'm sitting behind the desk in the gym telling him that his membership was up. So, that was kind of a thing I got into it as well. I was passionate about it. I wanted to be able to do all the stuff I wanted to do. So I knew that was the industry I had to work in. I was lucky enough, I was doing personal training before a lot of people. There was, I'd say, it's not like now, there was about 20 20 in total personal trainers, and we all knew each other. So I remember like Jackie Skelly and all I worked with, and we would go for drinks together. I know Pat Henry very well, and still meet Pat for lunch. Carl's father, you know. So we'd all knew that as well. But lucky enough, when I got into it, I had a couple of clients, and it's not like a lot of people, but the only people that were personal training back then was somebody extremely wealthy or someone movie stars. And lucky enough, I got a movie star. So
who'd you get? Can you say?
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis.
You got Daniel Day-Lewis?
Back in the day.
What were you training him for?
That was the movie The Boxer. That's how I met Barry McGuigan as well.
Jeez,
Barry
that's
trained
class.
him, yeah.
What's Daniel Day-Lewis like?
Lovely guy, very driven, very professional, like you said. And then going into that, from onto that, like I've had over the years from the Hugh Jackmans coming in, and like the Kings of Leon being in, sitting with them and like training. But you had like, I could keep going, like who's been in just recently, but that's not my business. That wasn't it. It's just more the privacy and more making it the best that they wanted to be there. Does that make sense?
And like when you get that much FaceTime with those sort of people, is that like, you know, we talked about this almost duplicitly engineering an environment of high performance. You could pick people's brain and kind of understand what motivates them and makes them tick. How much did you learn from these guys? How did they shape your mindset? Yeah,
well, you would learn a lot from them. You don't actually notice. It's not like you're going in, you're taking notes. It's just programmed you. You're getting bits and pieces from them all. So you're always learning from businessmen. I've trained a lot of I've still, most of my clients, they're, like I said, I've won 33 years now. And then most of them are 20 years with me. So when if you pick 20 people, and that's like 40 hours of personal training. It's a lot of personal training. So they're the same people. So, and then you're in demand, and then you get the odd ones coming through. Like I said, the more, like the famous one wants to be ready for a movie or the thing like that. So you've got that, and that pushes you outside the box as well. And then you're trying to do your own training as well. You're doing it as well. But you've got 20 people giving you all small bits of insight. Like you with a podcast here, you're getting small bits of information, driven. Say Matt Cooper trains me all the time, and like Matt's a very interesting guy as well.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think being around people as well, you can almost divide your friends and your social groups into two types of people. There's that group of people that are energy suckers, and there's another who give you energy. Mm-hmm. You know those guys, you're around them and you're with them for 5 minutes and you're like, I'm exhausted. Like they're unloading the world's problems on you. I often find they're very reactive to situations that they can't control. Like there's a lot of focus they'll put onto current affairs, politics, wars in Ukraine or Syria or Iraq. And it's like, all right, you can't do much about that, lad. What are you stressing so much about it for? And then you have this other group who just, as soon as you're with them, they're like plugging into their mains. You just come away. I've one friend in particular, and if I'm in any way struggling with motivation on training, I just get him on the phone, and it's like, whoa, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, well, it's again when you're pushing these people, but when they come in training, no matter how wealthy they are, how they are, they come in, they're in tracksuit. They're on the floor, like they're not very good at the exercise. As like it'd be like if you were bringing them out for a cycle.
Yeah,
they're not great on the bike. So and as I say to trainers, when I'd be coaching trainers, I've done some lectures for them, and I'd say, you see some trainers showing them how great the shape, look at my abs, look at my thing, or on social. I said, don't be showing them that. They're not showing you their bank account. That's what they're doing all their life. They're not in the gym all their life. So it's like everybody in their field. Like let's say you've Greg LeMond in here. Imagine him going to a gym and some guys telling him how great he is in the gym.
Yeah.
Why don't you go out for a cycle with Greg? Everybody in their fields.
Would you see his 94 VO2 max on the highest ever recorded?
Yeah, he's fit. He's fit.
And it's important to. I've heard this idea of a beginner's mindset. Have you experienced that with these top performers, that they'll go into something even though they're the peak, like Daniel Day-Lewis was, he won, I don't know how many Academy Awards, one of the greatest actors ever.
But no matter, I found with actors, no matter what, actors are brilliant. They take direction so easy, so good. I mean, good actors. And they do anything you say. They do anything. You can put them through a wall if you wanted to. You tell them how to eat. And it's amazing how they are. I always found that, especially if they're getting ready for something.
They're like, what's that, a chameleon, where they can just take on the environment.
And they're the ones, the high level. And you see how, like, it's such a tough industry. Like, it's, especially in Hollywood. Like, I think in the SAG cards, in the SAG industry in Hollywood, the Screen Actors Guilds, I think there's only like 1% like making a good week's wage.
Yeah.
And then, you've 0.5% making, and then like that's at the high level ones, all the movie stars we see.
There's a great book called Oversubscribed.
I've seen it, that's Daniel Priestley.
Yeah. Brilliant. He talks about that phenomenon as well, because if you look at a normal, we talked about Rosanna Davis and my undergrads in economics, that's how I was in her class. If you look at a normal demand and supply model, you're way oversupplied with actors in Hollywood. Everyone wants to be an actor in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the demand for that talent is super low. They're not making many movies. But yet there's 20, 30 people in Hollywood who make exorbitant paychecks, but they should make almost nothing. They should be making less than minimum wage if you worked on a demand and supply curve. But they've managed to figure out how to create an economy within an economy in much the same way that I'm sure you have now in personal training. Like there's 100,000 personal trainers around the country probably.
Yeah.
But yet you're coaching Hugh Jackman and he's not paying you 35 quid an hour. I can tell you that for a fact.
He's not.
The Hugh Jackman tax.
Yeah. Well, he was only once in it, but there's one's regular, very regular in, like some of the people there trying, like Liam Cunningham, he's 60. Do you see him on his social media there? He's deadlifting 160 kilos at 60 years old.
Unreal.
But he's always trained and doing it,
Strength seems to be one of those things that endurance athletes have neglected for a long time.
And it's a massive thing they should bring in, I think, because especially as they get older, like you'd see the difference in longevity. Like strength training is so crucial.
Look, you're talking to me 100% here. Like I'm, training probably anything from like last week was 28 hours on the bike. A normal week's not that big. I was away, but anything from 12 to 15 hours in a week. Like that's a lot of training. That's
a phenomenal amount of training.
If you put that into the gym, you're absolutely
I'll give you an example. So in the gym, your nutrition is a lot. So at 28 hours, your nutrition has to be right as well, obviously. So if a top competitive bodybuilder will be 5 to 6 hours a week. There, just to put that in the gym, 28 hours in the gym, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to walk
because you break the muscle and then it takes a couple of days to repair. It's different, but endurance thing. But that's a phenomenal stress on your body.
Massive.
And without the correct nutrition and the amount of it's eating calories and it's eating muscle, it's eating everything, So again, strength training crucial.
Yeah, I talked to Stephen Seller. He's a sports physiologist, one of the most prominent ones in the world for endurance athletes. And he said what we're still really bad at is understanding the cost of exercise. So, you're familiar with power meters now. If you go out on a ride, and for me, 200 watts is a zone 2 ride. So that 200 watts in hour 1. And that's the cost of that's like, say, 120 heart rate in the first hour. But if I ride for 4 hours, I might keep my power consistent. In the fourth hour, my heart rate's not going to be 120 beats. We have a phenomenon called cardiac drift, where it's probably going to go up to 130, 140 beats. But we as cyclists and cycling coaches and as an industry, we're quantifying that effort off the underlying asset. Like, we're quantifying it off power. So we're assuming a linear relationship. We're saying, okay, the stress in hour 1 equals the stress in hour 4. But the stress in hour 4 is so much higher.
Yeah.
I think across the board, we're bad at understanding the cost of exercise. Like, even in the gym, how do we quantify the cost of a particular session? Like, I know what I lifted, but I don't know in stress terms what that cost me today. So I don't know how long I need to recover from it.
Yeah, well, it takes like 48 hours minimum to recover, because what you're literally doing in the gym is like getting sandpaper and rubbing it on your hands, and that's micro tears in the muscle.
Yeah.
So imagine going to use your hands again. If you're tore it, you can't. You'd have to let that repair.
Yeah.
So that's the same as the muscle. So it takes 48 hours. If you're training correctly, I'm not talking to Instagrammers. Like you train a muscle, you break a fiber. It's going to take time for the magic to happen. It has to repair. Again, sort of like a cyclist as well. If you're training your say strength for your legs, you have to recover. You wouldn't train a gym session on legs, then go cycling the next day.
But what impacts the speed that recovers at? Because that's where I think
your nutrition.
Yeah, so if we dive in and we unpack that, then so if nutrition, let's assume someone has a totally optimized nutrition and they're strength training, and we're looking to gauge how long it takes them to recover. Now we're looking to see, okay, the length of their sleep, the quality of their sleep is definitely going to have an impact. But now we have a whole other bucket that we throw stuff into, work, it's stress and work, marital stress, financial problems. All of those have an impact that we're not entirely sure. It's an impact that's greater than zero, but we're not entirely sure how to measure that impact on the recovery.
What they should do as well, and a lot of guys do that as well, take the training logs.
That's brilliant, yeah.
So you'd want to write everything down and see how you are after each session.
Yeah.
So write down, see how you're sleeping, see what food works for you, seeing how you recover quick, and see what supplements work for you as well. Like so what you're lacking, what you need to supplement with as well. But that there was the thing, the sleeping. If you're not sleeping, you're not recovering correctly. So sleep is the ultimate. That's the next thing. The second part is nutrition, and the last part of the jigsaw is your training, your exercise. It's like actually the Whoop. I wear a Whoop. I don't know if you ever used it. You have a Whoop yet? So you see the recovery. So it's sleep as well. Like it's great for the recovery, but it's like for some reason now I'm actually into the yellow and green a lot more now. But I was about 2 or 3 months in red. Yeah. Couldn't get out of it. I was actually stressed with the new gym, getting it all going and stuff, and builders and dealing with them,
Olaf Boo is the coach for Gustav Iden and Christian Blumenfeld, the 2 best triathletes in the world. And they don't do massage. They don't do ice bath. They don't do infrared saunas, cryotherapy. The reason they don't do any of this, firstly, it's not really backed up in peer-reviewed literature, but anecdotally, some athletes will say this stuff works. They don't do it all because if they don't do it all, they have more time to sleep. And sleep is the lever.
That's the king. It's when the magic happens. Your body releases growth hormone to the body. If you get into that REM sleep, and like you say on Whoop, and you see how many actually REM sleep and deep sleep you've got, which is a recovery sleep. And if you're not getting that, and then the hardest thing as well is listening to it.
Yeah.
And it's against, but you writing a log down and everything, seeing how you are and putting it all. But if
you know the problem with that though is it works for you because I've chatted to you for almost an hour now. You've amazing levels of EQ, emotional intelligence. You can read the room. You can read a conversation. Not everyone has that. Even a simple example of how bad some people are at understanding themselves. I used to do lactate tests when I started a coaching company 10 years ago. And you'd be in maybe a GA club because it got quite fashionable to do these lactate tests. So we bring the watt bike and you'd be doing lactate tests. And we'd expect a lactate reading of 4 millimoles to roughly line up with a 7 or 8 out of 10 rate of perceived exertion. So they're working hard. Their threshold around 4 millimoles. So you'd be going to them, what's your rate of perceived exertion progression there. And I'm looking at the data going, he's 4.1, so he should be 7 or 8 out of 10 because he's not long left here.
Yeah.
And but he'd be the real alpha, you know, the club captain or the real have a go
So
here.
he's going to go for it, yeah.
So I was like, what's your rate of perceived exertion there? He's like, nothing. I'm like, it's a scale of 1 to 10 now. How do you mean nothing? He's like, if you're pushing me, 1. I'm like, just going.
Your heart rate's 170.
Yeah, he's not at 1. And then it's like, all right, we're going up a level. Let's take it up 20 watts for the next minute. And you can see the hips going. You're like, rate of perceived exertion. Like, still nothing. And it's like, boom, you're gone. You're not holding the wattage. But that just shows you how bad some people are that don't have EQ at listening to our body and being truthful about, you know, did you have a good night's sleep? Are you ready to train?
Yeah. But it's like recovery.
I'm cooked at the moment. I rode 28 hours last week, and it was the last day in sunny Girona, 24 hours or 24 degrees. And I had all day to ride my bike, absolutely nothing to do. My girlfriend was away at a corporate event for one of our sponsors, and I couldn't get on the bike. I couldn't get my kid on. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I just can't get my kid on. And it was only when I took some time, I done some meditating, went to the coffee shop and wrote a little bit. And I was like, you know what? If I'm motivated, so if I can't get on the bike, my body's telling me something here.
Yeah, that's overtrained. And overtrained is worse than undertraining, you know, like it's like that's knowing that and listening to your body. That's the hardest part for any high achiever, any performance, top level, is actually knowing when to, like I said, the Whoop says, bring your like strength to 14 to that, because many people can actually do that. Many people training hard can actually do it. It's still in their mind, I have to push it. And that's where good coaches always come in, to actually be able to push the buttons for them. And you see they've got that in football now and all, and the rugby especially now. That's the big thing in rugby. They have that right down to a fine art. Have
you heard of meta-stress?
No, I haven't. No.
Meta-stress is this new concept of stress that's being developed. People are worried about what their Whoop readings are going to say. So that's actually putting their cortisol levels up, and it's stressing them out.
Well, one of the things I actually said, I remember telling there was a sports agent, a friend of mine, telling me he looks after a lot of top athletes, big names, like, you know, and he's telling me down the football team they're all getting the whoop, and I'm going, I wouldn't let a football team wear that, because they wake up in the morning before a match and they see they're in the red. They're going, I'm not recovered, so I'm going to play a shit game. You know, so
I take it off a bike race. Like, I'm 4 stages into a 6th stage race. What am I going to check it? What data is this telling me that's going to be helpful? Oh, you're on a bad day today.
But you wake up and it's 98% recovery, you're going to a race, you're going to go, yeah. But again, there's psychological stuff, isn't it? It's amazing. Like a green thing can tell you psychologically you're going to race good.
There's brilliant stories about Brian Clough when he was the manager in Nottingham Forest. I'm not sure how much of a football fan you are. But
big.
Brian Clough, legendary football manager, but there was one where Stuart Pearce was
United
knocked out.
wasn't it?
Oh yeah, brilliant.
Great movie.
Great movie. But there's one, Stuart Pearce, psycho, hard man, but he's after having a clash of heads and he's knocked out. And the physio goes over, gives him the smelling salts, he comes around and he runs back over to the sideline and he says to Cloughie, he's knocked out. And he's like, how do you mean he's knocked out? He's like, he's knocked out, he doesn't know who he is. So he's looking for that prompt to say, well, I'll replace him. He's like, doesn't know who he is. He's like, tell him he's Pele and stick him up front. Sorry, some Cloughie.
It's British, isn't it?
Have you had mentors that you looked up to in your journey?
Yeah, like there was obviously bodybuilders and karate guys. I was lucky enough when I was fighting in karate. I was quite young and I started doing well. I was on a team of guys that were international fighters. So I made a team with these guys and they all happened to be for Dublin, the top lads. So I was fighting international with them when I was 16 and 17, when they were all into their late 30s and things like that. So they were all kind of mentors of mine. And I met up with them just recently there, and they're all in their 70s now, you know. I looked up to them for the karate, and then bodybuilding as well. There was great gym guys around with a lot of great knowledge, a lot of guys that passionate at drink and sleep, you know, like weights and nutrition. So they're pumping it all into me. So I had good mentors. Who are you looking up to now? Nobody really massive. Like I admire like a lot of different people. So from the likes of Elon Musk, like let's say, like I was, you know, I look at them and I say, wow, you know, how they've come out of.
I think he's a cyborg.
Yeah, he's a robot, you know. Like, I mean, you're just gonna go, wow. He just says it like. So things like Eric Cantona was one of my kind of like idols back in the day, you know.
It'd be great to have him on a podcast, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he'd be great on a podcast. Yeah.
Do you see the story of him? I heard Liam Gallagher talking about it. He was in one of Liam Gallagher's, you know, Oasis obviously broke up and the two lads went solo. And Liam had a hit. Name of the song escapes me, but Eric Cantona was the actor for the video for the song.
Really? Yeah.
And he's just in this amazing castle wearing a robe. I'll send it to you. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's just this sort of degenerate king in a castle, and he's walking around and the empire's fall and all the servants are gone, but he's still walking around in the crown and the robe, drinking out of bottles of wine, and you know, he looks a bit washed up and stuff. But I heard Liam Gallagher talking about the story about how Cantona came on it, and he said, a mate has said to him, look, Cantona would be brilliant for this. I have this idea. I think Cantona would be brilliant. And he said, all right, does anyone know Cantona? Can we get a call from him? And he got a phone number, and he's like, you know, Eric, I'd love to have you in this thing. And he's like, yes, I'll do it. And he's like, all right, cool, yeah. You know, how much do you want for that? I do not want your money. He's like, right, grand. Okay, cool. So, you know, we'll send you know, if you send your CTR and stuff, we'll book you a nice flight over to the hotel. I book my own flight to the hotel. He's like, cool, like, let us know when you're landing or that, and we'll send a car. I use my own car. So he said he literally showed up on his own bat, done the shoot, disappeared, never heard from him again. He's like, that's rock and roll.
But he's I was just watching the thing, the Premiership. Did you see it? The history of the Premiership.
No.
It's very good. It's Fever Pitch.
Oh, I think I've heard about this actually.
How it started and all that, but it shows that, you know, that when Sky took over and he made all the stars and Canton was brought in new. And then when he attacked, you remember Matt Sims, he did the Kung Fu kick.
Yeah.
And he was talking about then he was suspended, and after then he was kind of
Selhurst Park, wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right, yeah. And he was actually, he's been his first interview, he's sitting down and all the press are there. He didn't talk to anybody. And he asked him a question, and he goes, when the seagulls rise from the ducks, and then walks away, and then retired. He just retired after football then at 38.
He's a madman.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
If you were to give advice now to somebody who's just starting on this high performance career, whether it's, you know, we use finance as an industry, law, whatever, or if it's sport or academia, art or whatever, all the success you've had and all the success you've been around, is there any tidbit of information that you wish you knew at the start of your journey?
That's a good question. Historic tidbit I wish I knew.
I'll tell you, when you were thinking, I'll tell you mine, because what I done was I seen people that had success in multiple different areas. I seen people that are running businesses, success with, you know, relationships and stuff. And I tried to do it all at once. And at one point, I think I had 5 or 6 businesses running. I had a cafe in Clontarf. I was building an app with a development team in the States and trying to raise a fundraising round. I had an event pre-registration company in Qatar. I had a cycling coaching company here, a social media marketing agency here. And then I had this other project, we were calling it the Rockstar, where we were always trying to figure out what the next big thing was. So we had this almost incubation with me and a mate of mine, the project Rockstar, and we spent most of our time on that. And I realized you can't excel in multiple fields simultaneously. I'm not sure if there's a naivety or an arrogance, but since then, anyone I've seen who's excelled in multiple fields, even you talk about Elon, it's 100% the focus goes into one area until it gets to a threshold where it's up and running, and then he can shift into the next area.
That's actually in a book called, I forget what it's called, a Japanese book, actually, believe it, a martial arts book. And there's a guy doing judo and karate, and he was training both of them. And a top karate sensei called him over, and he says to him, a man who chases 2 rabbits catches none.
Yeah.
That's what he said to him.
Seneca said that, Roman emperor.
Yeah.
The man who chases both rabbits catches none.
Yeah, so he pulled them aside. He said that. Your man said that in the book anyway, but he said that there's a man who chases 2 rabbits catches none. Yeah, so that's that kind of. Yeah, what would I kind of. Well, then my advice is like, love it. Do it with passion. Do it like 100%. Do it to be the best at. Do it that you love it and, you know, mean it. Again, like, you know, if somebody wants to be an actor, if somebody wants to be a businessman, you have to go 100% and love it. There's no point. If you hate it, you're not going to do it. If you hate cycling, you're never going to be a good cyclist. If you hate bodybuilding or karate or martial arts, if you hate chess, you're never going to be good at it.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, so I'm going to make money at this, it's never going to happen. The money comes and success comes when you've got that passion in it. Like Steve Jobs would say, Apple, it was his passion. He was wanting to make it. I'm sure like Jeff Bezos with, like you see the old pictures of him with Amazon, they had passion in them and then they just excelled.
It's a great point. And I think a lot of people are stuck in social groups where they have a passion, but it's the pressure to conform to the norms of that social group and the pressure to fit in there is more powerful than their desire to excel. And then they have this dichotomy, which ultimately just ends up making them unhappy and regrets going, I wish I had done this when I was younger. Yeah,
well, again, it's just with social media, again, we're going back to it. Everybody's looking at everybody else's amazing. If somebody's, he's doing great at that, he's doing better at this. But remember, before somebody started something, they would stay at it. People are moving. They're not giving it longevity. Yeah. In a career, they're starting, they're gone. They're never, if someone started in a job or a career years ago, that's their career. They went for that. If someone started in a sport, now they're hopping. They're like kids. Like 7 and 8 year olds. They're doing 10 different sports before they find their one. But nobody's staying long term now because they're moving to the next one before. And the same with job and careers. Like I want to be a solicitor and I want to be a doctor now. And they're never going to be successful.
Stephen Pressfield has a brilliant book called The War of Art, where he talks about resistance. Resistance is this force that shows up to stop us doing the work we know we should be doing. But he said one way to overcome resistance is to move from having an amateur mindset to a professional mindset. And that's not professional in the sense of a professional athlete. You think about someone that's professional that works in a factory. Like, what are the traits of someone that works in a factory professionally? They show up to work every single morning on time. They do the work whether they feel like doing the work or not. They do it whether they're sick. They do it whether the weather's bad. Now, if you think about that from a sporting perspective or from our side hustle perspective, a lot of us don't do the work on the days we don't feel like doing the work. That's amateur behaviour.
Because they're getting money for it. Professionally. Yeah, that's it.
They're getting money for it.
Yeah. And that's again goes back to, you got to love it. Don't think of the money. You got to do it and turn up. Like, again, I've never missed a workout. Never missed it. For whether it's bodybuilding, karate, I trained twice a day. Karate because you could. There was so much different things. There was kata and kumite, and then cycling as well. You amount like again the hours for Ironman and things that the hours you had to put in, and I hated it. I'd actually when I was actually doing anyway, I'd done like 6 half Ironman, and actually I was actually halfway through the swim going, what in the name of Jesus am I doing here? Why am I going? What am I have to do this whole thing now. Like, it's just. But anyway,
we'll get out for a spin soon, Paul.
Yeah. I had to get that the new Specialized Diversa spin.
Dust it off.
Yeah.
Thanks for chatting.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Really good.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please click up here. There's another video I know that you're absolutely going to love. And we're just getting started, so subscriptions really matter. Click over here and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our amazing upcoming guests.